3, 2, 1. Okay, let's do this. Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks, where today we are going to take a look at the brand new FINOW X5 Plus, which looks externally almost identical to the X5, the original, with a few important differences. No, you're not going to be bored by this video because let me tell you, the operating system, the UI, the user interface, completely different on the new watch. That's why they're both here. The only way I can really do this is to compare them. So you get two videos in one, the first look at the new one and the comparison of the two together. So what are we talking about? We are talking about the X5 Plus from the manufacturer themselves, FINOW, in their AliExpress storefront, which there's links to down below. And if you're lucky enough to be seeing this before 11/11, their 11/11 price, the lowest price they're going to go is $111.11 on this particular watch. If it's after that, you're probably going to see the prices higher, but check again down below. They've told me that if you're watching the video, they're going to have instructions on how you can get a discount price on whatever price they have listed. It's just, this is the best. I mean, this is really good for the brand new X5 Plus. What has it got that the X5 doesn't have? It's got the same basic screen, but it's got a bigger processor, faster quad core. It's got larger amount of RAM, 1 GB and 8 GB. It was half of that on the original, and it's running Android 5.1 instead of the 4.4. Got a couple of extra frequencies here for doing the data coverage. It makes it work well in the United States on 3G. An updated new fitness kind of an approach, and some sort of a vibration thing going for incoming messages and phone calls. We're looking at a 450 milliamp hour battery and a whole bunch of languages, some of which I don't even see here because they're in their own language. But yeah, a lot of good stuff happening. And a new operating face, like I said. Look at this. Dialing, contacts, SMS, heart rate, sport, apps, and settings. Now, when you go back to the original screen, it's just like the original screen on the first one, and you have all of your watch faces, which are accessible by pressing and holding, just like we've seen before, and sliding, and there they go. Of course, different ones now in the new watch. So that's all the same. But here's something they fixed. I don't know if you've noticed, but those of you who've had this watch or any of the FINOW watches up until now, if you happen to be moving and you touch your watch by accident somehow, you might end up, no, I can't do it, you might end up getting into there. And then you might end up accidentally setting, and next thing you know, you look at your watch to see the time, and it's way off in Never Never Land anymore. And that's all because the process of getting into the watch to review your apps and whatnot has been to lightly touch and hold. A long touch got you into changing the screens. A light touch took you into there. Well, no more. No more. You can touch all you want, and you're not going to get anywhere in the new operating system user interface on the Plus watch, at least on this X5 Plus. So let's take this look. Once again, for familiarity, when you pull down on this watch, nothing happened. When you pull to the left, you got your notifications. When you pull to the right, you're getting your music play. By the way, you see that little dot in the corner? This puppy's fully loaded, so that's assistive touch. There, made it go away. Nope, brought it back up. It's got all these things, including going back home if you wanted to, that kind of stuff. So that's an add-on app. It's not part of the watch itself. I get the question all the time, and I usually don't explain it. So when you go to the right, you go through all of these pages. You see them up there at the top, those little squares. You have your weather, your heart rate and pedometer, sports stuff, your music player, your watch face, and your notifications. Okay? And that's it. You pull down, nothing. You pull up, and if you get it just right, you can Now I'm running something else on top of here. This is a launcher that if I pull up, it's called Swipe Home Button. That brings up another app, which is a floating launcher that's going on top of it. And wow, a lot of stuff happening. But sometimes I'm lucky enough and I can get it to just bring it up. It would bring up a little panel that you can turn on and off your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth. And that's all that would happen when it goes up. But you can see I've modified this extensively. All right, enough of the old. You've seen that before. What does it do on the new one? Well, if I pull down, that's where my notifications are now. If I go to the left, nothing. You see how it just kind of glows and goes nowhere? If I go up, now I'm getting into this thing where it tells me the date. It's November the 9th, Wednesday. I have 75% battery charge. I have Wi-Fi on. I have no cellular in there. And there's 3 dots at the bottom. So if I scroll to the right, I get this display, which lets me turn on and off Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. What's this one? Palm Bright Screen. That's the one where you twist your wrist and you can see the time. It'll light up automatically. And power saving mode, which you saw just turned off my Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And then down at the bottom, okay, now they both came back on. And I'm going to try to turn these off and off and off. Okay. Down at the bottom under the words are the different brightness levels. This is set at level 1 right now. And then there's 2 and 3. So 3 brightness levels. On this watch, I've installed an app that lets you actually control the brightness by sliding. See that? It's called Display Brightness. So you're kind of getting an advanced review now. This one's all decked out. I'd put the same apps exactly on this one. So as I'm mentioning these, floating toucher and, oh gosh, the swipe home button and the display brightness, all those things are stuff you may want to install. And the third panel is the weather. So by way of review, on this one, it's a left, and then a right, 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 and they're all in a linear line. And tap once got you into your apps. Swipe down gets you back. On this one, swipe down gets you your notifications. Swipe up gets you into here. Then you go to the right for that panel. You go to the right for the weather. If you're at this level, left goes nowhere, and right goes into these pages. Now let's get serious about this. Dialing will bring up your information if you have a SIM card installed. Remember, these are not tethering watches per se. They're really made to work on a SIM card. You can bring up the dialing pad, and look how different it looks. You've got the contact page right there that you can touch to open your contacts directly. And you can place your call like so, which is going off and telling you we don't have a SIM installed. So this is different, the different layout for the caller. No calls is your call log when you look back, and swiping down, hitting your home button brings you back there again, the top button. Dialing, contacts we looked at, there are none. SMS. Now here's where it gets some interesting. If you had any messages, they would be here. Again, not messages on your phone that are connected back over to your watch for you to read, but messages that come in on the SIM card in the watch. Okay, got to remember that. You're not tethering to your watch to get all of, or your phone to get all of this. When I start a new one and I put in the text, I get a chance to bring up the keyboard, and the keyboard's totally different now. It's not the typical one we're used to. It's got a whole different kind of layout with the alphabet broken up into 3 or 4 letters, just like the phone pad would on a touch-tone phone. Okay? You got all of that stuff. You can shift, make your capitals. You can backspace. Oh, you don't like it, you say. Well, I'm sure we can install other keyboards. If I touch on English, I have the ABCIME keyboard. I can do a Google Voice keyboard, or I can go the Pinyin Me keyboard. that looks similar to the ABC one, like this, but you can switch back and forth between Chinese and English on it. All right? I'm not going to go a whole lot into that, but I'm not happy with that part. I like the original traditional keyboards, and I will probably install a third-party keyboard and just link to that, and that'll work fine. Yes, we want to discard it. That's messages. SMS messages. Your heart rate. Now we have that new special sensor. I'm going to touch it and we go into here. Do you see? We got that new special sensor that has 3 things there, 2 diodes and 1 central receiver. It's supposed to get better results. So considering that you haven't even seen it on me yet, let's look at the watch. I mean, it should look identical to what you've seen in the original X5. It is exactly the same as layout. In black now instead of silver. You can get it in either color. It's on the arm. I'm going to touch the thing to make it go, and it says it's opening. Now watch the little gas gauge there. That thing is going up as it's measuring my heart rate. There's only one number. It's at 120. When it's got my pulse, it just locks in there and it gives you the pulse reading. Once you've got it, says I'm relaxed. Yeah, right. I don't remember the last time I was relaxed. If I slide up, I get my records. And I've tried it a few times, and I've gotten these different pulse rates, and earlier to later, today, it's showing them. The first 3 were linear. Now they're starting to show up across the top like that. Let's stop it, or start it again, and I get another measurement. It seems to be continuously running, which is nice. I seem to be really hyped up, which is nice. You like that on the videos. I know, I get through them faster. And when I pop it down again, hello? Maybe it has to stop. Okay, it's not going there. Heart rate. Well, you get the drift. They're just sticky fingers, I guess. You'll just get that entry on there as well. All right, sport, bare feet. Dad and son, male or female, choose your sex. Come up and choose your height in centimeters, whatever you'd like. Choose your weight, whatever you'd like in kilograms. Choose your age, how old do you want to be? And then this is really nice, your step size in centimeters, so that it can actually give you your accurate kilometers. If you measure that correctly and put it in here, set your, wow, it's only in tens though. All right. That's amazing. It should be in ones. Well, anyway, all right. It's a start. You get your step size in there, and then you confirm your settings, and you're good to go now and go out and exercise. And you set up an exercise plan. You got your profile, which is what we just did. Oh, yeah, you noticed I just slid back, and that got me back. So that probably in the heart rate, that's how I would get back again. An exercise plan, 20 times per month. You could change that by ones. And so forth, okay? So you got the settings, you got your log, how many you finished of the 20 sessions you were going to do, and then you can exercise. Running, walking, looks like a treadmill machine, elliptical machine, cycling. Anything else on these? No. Let's do cycling. You set your target for minutes because you're not going to have, steps, and then you go. I don't know how you start it. Perhaps. Yeah. Anyway, play with it. You figure that out. Much more robust sporting area than we've seen before. And that was what was mentioned, that they've got a new kind of a fitness app for recording this data. Finally, you see the dots at the top. Let me go back where we were. Remember, we started on this screen. If I used to tap them and go into the apps, I would accidentally go in there. It's nice that it's not there. But I mean, the sliding up gets you this, and the sliding down gets you that. The sliding left gets you nowhere. I sure wish they put the apps over here, because if I just want to run an app, I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens over to get into my apps. That could use some improvement. This is an engineering prototype, folks. I don't know that they've locked this user interface down, but a shout out to Finaware to move the apps back over. That's one of the more common things you'd go into, and just to the left of the original screen would be great. Now, settings, let's run through. Let's just show you this. After apps, then is settings. So your apps and your settings are at the very end of your whole list of pages you can go into. Let's go into the apps. Settings Search is one that I've installed because I like to be able to get into the settings in more deeper detail than you can with the settings that are available. So you download this from the Google Play Store and you have access to all of these different things, which later you'll see in the settings you don't have access to, especially applications. When you go in here, these are the apps I've installed, but look, I can go into running apps and into all apps. And in all apps, and we've discussed this in other videos, if you need to, because of some complication in the watch faces or whatever, if you need to reset your launcher data, you can go to Launcher, you can go down here to Clear Data, and if you clear the data, the watch will reboot itself and come back to the opening watch face, and, well, it'll actually ask you what language you want first. Select your language, then the watch face, and then you're right back at the very beginning. So that's something really nice to be able to do, and you can only do it if you've installed Settings Search. You can't do it from the default settings. Sound Recorder came with the watch, and it's our first chance to test the audio of this. We are playing with the FiNow X5 Plus smartwatch, and we're testing the audio, and I'm speaking at about the same level I was doing when I started. Let's save it. And I have the volume turned all the way up on this watch. There must be a way to go into it now. I guess it's the three little dots up here. There we go. There's the recording. We are playing with the FiNow X5 Plus smartwatch, and we're testing the audio, and I'm speaking at about the same level I was doing when I started. Sounds nice and crisp on my end. Little soft, but nonetheless good volume. And if you recall, the speakers themselves, oh, look at that. See how wet I get when I'm wearing this? I'm going to dry it off. Sorry. Okay. The speaker is kind of recessed right here under the band. Not the best place if you want to listen to it. Sure would be nice if it was on the side. Not a good place for the holes when you saw all the sweat that I have here that could get moisture in there. However, that's where they've historically been on the X5 line, as you see here, and actually the Q1 line, Q3 as well. So, yeah, we just got to live with it. But that's where the sound comes out of, behind the band, in the middle, stuck to your arm. No wonder it's a little soft. Let's go further. Here's a voice search thing. Oh, can't reach Google. That's because Wi-Fi is off. But if I could, you just simply speak and go. You know, if you're on Wi-Fi or you're on your cellular network connection, with that voice search, you could just do your basic Google voice search. Watch Helper. This is the area for connecting to your phone. And again, it's not really robust. You see the connect Bluetooth. We don't have it turned on, but if it were, you'd connect there. You can have it vibrate. That's what they were talking about when you have incoming messages. You can have sound play. You can actually have it turn the screen on if you want to when messages come out. It's kind of hard to see that in gray right now. They're grayed out because I don't have Bluetooth on. Find your target is where if you're separated from your phone and you lose the Bluetooth signal, they'll beep at each other. And then you have a place to transfer a file. And to be able to get to that, you have to scan that barcode and download the app. So point your phone to the screen right now, see if it'll lock on that barcode, and see on the phone what it tells you is your mating app for this watch. Okay? So, that's this stuff on the Watch Helper. Whether it will connect to the internet and turn on location services and all that stuff to determine what your weather is. And as far as I know, as it always has been, it's going to be in Celsius. There's no way to change it to Fahrenheit yet. Your alarms are basic. You just turn your alarms on and off. You can set them for recurring every day of the week, specific days, one time. You can add new ones. That's all there. Antutu benchmarks. We're going to do that in a minute. I added those in here. They did not come with the watch. However, the App Store did. And again, this is the App Store different than the Google App Store. This is the App Store maintained on a server that feeds out things like, Facebook and I don't know, other apps that you can download without having to have a Google account and go onto the Google Play Store itself. It's an app store, not the Play Store. We have a barometer here that also wants us to connect to the internet to find the location to get the information so that you can get your barometric pressure. It's kind of tied in with the weather. That's somewhat new for this watch. You have your canned browser that comes with it with a few select already pre-seasoned places to go. And again, we're not on the internet right now, so we can't go anywhere, but that's your basic browser. I prefer one called Apus, A-P-U-S, and I install that and use that as my default browser typically on these watches. Then I got the calendar app, which again is your basic calendar, and it just shows you the months before and after in deep gray, hard to read, and the current date. You can't enter any information in there. It's, pretty limited. There's a trick to be able to install the Google Calendar if you want to, but you have to uninstall or deactivate this calendar first in order to get the Google Calendar to work. Downloads is a section where if you were to download any items, they would appear there. And then here's when I installed the Engineering Mode MTK Shortcut. That's an app that lets us go in and do things like look at the GPS signal to see how strong it is. With File Manager, we're able to go in and install some apps. Going to come back to that in a second. The standard Google, you saw the voice search. Well, this is the overall Google that lets you, type things in or do the voice search as well. But it's the full Google thing where you can say, OK, Google, if you want to get it to activate. And then we've got sound, our sound profile of volumes, watch ringtones that you can choose what you'd like, and there's a lot of them. We have other videos where we go through all of these different sounds. So find one of those if you want to listen to them. They took forever, and most folks got bored with it. You have default notification sounds as well. You can have little short ones, you can have longer ones. And that's what will happen when you have something comes in that activates notifications. And you can set it to vibrate the watch as well, which eats some of your battery, so I usually leave that off. That's all in your sound profile. Power savings. Turn it on. It's going to turn off all your radios and stuff like that. The brightness, palming brightness screen is turned on. I'm pretty sure that's the thing where you turn your wrist and it lights up, but they're giving it a funny name. And then automatically disconnecting the apps when they're not needed in the background, so you save power that way. That's usually a good thing to do, unless you need them for something, like monitoring your Facebook for feeds or something else. Text-to-speech is where you can activate it and you can speak to it, or you'll have it read what is there out to you because it's text-to-speech, okay? Then you can reset the whole device, and when you reset the watch, it makes sure that you have enough electricity and it goes through and completely resets everything. Sometimes these watches will erase all your data, all of it. Sometimes they don't. So you got to check on that one. And then here's uninstalling apps. This is the only app access we have, is to uninstall the apps that have already been installed by you, not the stock ones. You can't disable them, and you can't clear memory on any of them. So that's why we installed that first one, Settings Search, because that gives you that capability. Then I have more settings here. For like the battery, shows you how much is remaining. Is that about it? Yeah, that's pretty lame. It used to be that we would get a graph showing you how much was being used, and I'm pretty sure you can access that deeper battery information from Settings Search. You have your language and input. You have all these different languages. We showed you on that list, but just in case, like there's different versions of English and Spanish. Quite a few languages. They should have this down by now. All they got to do is map the same languages across to all of the different watches. There you go. These are a lot of them I don't recognize. I really don't. But they are in the watch. That's our languages. Keyboard and input methods. We have the different keyboards. I'm going to go back to that ABC one. And then the Google Voice typing is set for automatic with the OK Google detection. So you see, similar to everything we've had before. Security, you can put in a passcode or not. You can accept from unknown sources, which I have checked on, because what I do is I download all the apps I want to install from my computer. I've already got them kind of archived in a folder on my computer. You're going to see that in a moment. Then I put them in there, and then I install them from there rather than having to go to the Play Store and type them in every time. So you need that turned on. Your call settings, if you have your SIM card in there, that gives you all of those kind of settings. Your messages, you can get message notifications. You can mute it, sound, vibration, turn that off. And then there's About Phone. This is where we see everything there is that we need to know about this phone. Of course, wireless updates, will come back and check it. Developer options is where you can go in and turn them on to do things like stay awake when you're plugged into the charger if you'd like. So you could have the watch on all the time. Not really recommended, but hey, you could do that. Everything else I would not even mess with. In fact, you could just turn that off. Probably a good idea anyway. As you get down here, you see that the phone number status and everything is there if you have a SIM card installed. We're running the X5 Plus, Android 5.1, security patch of 2015-1101. There's the baseband, which says, gosh, a bunch of stuff. And then here's the kernel version, October 30th. Okay, it's just barely into November, so this is brand new. Build number and our custom build number for this particular watch. Now, again, this is an engineering prototype and prototype firmware and software in here. So everything you're seeing is subject to change by the time the actual one, the production copy comes out and you're able to buy it. It could be updated significantly. When you go into wireless update, if we're connected to the internet, you tap it or check for updates, and it would go out there, see it wants Wi-Fi turned on, and it'll check to see if there's any over-the-air updates available for you. All right, so that's an overview of all of the apps. Here I am at the home screen again. Just to get back to the apps, I've got to go all the way over to here. But I wanted to tell you about some of the other things. We talked about Settings Search. We went in there, right? We are going to also take a look at that engineer. I'm going to come back to the Antutu. The engineer mode MTK. This is where we're going to look at the GPS. We got a few videos out there that look at GPS, and there's one that actually does a look at how the original X5 performed in its GPS tests. So check that one. And this is what we find on this one. When I come over here to the location-based services, and I go into GPS, then I make sure that GPS is turned on, and go over to view, I see all of the satellites. They're popping up right there. Across the bottom is where little bars show up if it's acquiring a signal. And I'll tell you this already. Sitting inside a house with a roof, I'm not going to get anything. Typical of all of these watches, the GPS with its bands, antenna in the bands or wherever, doesn't work well indoors. I took this thing outside and I used it under the sky, and I got lots of bands. I put it on and I have moderate reception, good but not great. It's basically typical of all of these classes of watches. When you see the other video that has like 13 of them reviewed, and they all come up really close to each other. I'd say this fits in that same category. So I'm not going to be able to show you much today on that because I'm not hauling the camera out to show you the same thing in the grass that we've seen before. I'll just tell you, that's what the results that we get. It does do GPS. It doesn't do it great, but it does it okay. So that's Engineering Mode MTK Shortcut is the app that we're using there. I bet I should have done that, and then I wouldn't have to go through all of this again. Apps. So how about Antutu? That's what everybody loves to see. What's my magic Antutu number? There's the 3D bench that's called up by the actual benchmark test itself. And it wants my network. All right, I'm going to put it on the network and be right back. I'm all logged in, so all I have to do is swipe down, hit Wi-Fi, turn it on. Should automatically be connecting. Go back into Antutu and run it again. Okay, so the first thing it's going to do is call up its information and let me do a test. And there it goes sideways, and what it'll do is run that graphics test, the garden in 400 by 400. It's loading it in right now. And this is pretty cool. It's a 3D rendering of a Japanese garden, and you get to see the quality of it as it goes through here. Now, watches that have a true 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of ROM perform this really, really well. Android 5.1 watches with quad-core processors that only have a ½ GB and 4 GB memory generally cannot run this. They kind of skip over it. The range of Antutu reports that we get back for this faster kind of watch with the quad-core processor and the larger RAM tend to be in the 20 to 23,000 range. The similar watches with the lower amount of memory seem to be about 15,000. And the original Android 4.4 watches with the dual-core processors tend to be around 7,000 to 10,000. All right? So they're all falling into these different categories. And as you can see, it's saying 50% right now, and it's going to take it a while. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when we are done. And we're getting close to finishing. On the X5 Plus, running Antutu, the app, 99%. There we go, 22,899. Nice, decent score. And how does that compare with the original X5? Well, when I run the same app, I get 9890. Okay, so it's more than twice as fast in overall performance, testing a whole lot of different parameters. Now, last thing I wanted to mention on this, if I can get to it. Here we go. Under More, we have this screen test. I haven't been doing this before because, well, an AMOLED screen is an AMOLED screen, I thought. But now we're being told that there's different classes or grades and that this is an A+. So I'm going to run this screen test for you on both of these watches, and you just check out the screen. See what you think. Here we go. Come on. I got them at relatively the same brightness. It's doing the red and the blue. Sorry about the shadows in the background and the dot in the upper right-hand side. Again, that's Floating Toucher is the app that lets us put that dot there. Look for the even consistency in the grays. Okay, here's a color bar test. It looks fine to me. I'm not seeing anything less than beautiful colors. They really pop. They're both AMOLED displays, and probably both of the A+ variety. But just for benchmarking purposes, there you go. That's what they look like. So that's it for the Antutu report. So by way of summary, once again, the layout in the user interface between the D5 and the D5 Plus is different. When you slide on the D5, you have these pages here. Straight across, that's what you get. When you slide down, nothing. When you slide up, if you're lucky, you get that little page where you can turn on and off Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or tethering. Okay? When you do that same thing, you go to the left, you don't get anywhere on the X5 Plus, and I'm just about out of power. But when I go to the right, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. And this is where we get into all of the system settings. By the way, the system app itself is not in the apps. You have to go here to get to it. And all of your apps are available in here. I think we covered them all. We talked about the Google. There's your music app. You touch that and you have your music. Internal music can play, right? Go back one. And your Google Play Store, when you log in, you can download all your apps from there. And the Antutu benchmark we just ran. So you got all of your apps there. And we're back here to home. Now, here's another difference. You got the 3 buttons, right, that you have available to you. The top button, we've seen, it lets us come back to where we are, to our home screen. The center button turns it off and then on with a single tap. The bottom button, when you press it, nothing. But when you press and hold, you go into the emergency setting. But you have to add contacts in order for it to make an emergency call. And you have to have a SIM card in there for it to work. Little bit different appearance, but you have that as well. Okay? And then we're going to come out of that. And the last thing is what happens when you press and hold the center button. Boom. You get completely different screens. On the new one, you have the SOS button right here. You tap it, and if you've got your contacts in it, you get the same SOS function as pressing and holding this bottom button. Kind of redundant. But you have these other 2 buttons. One is reboot and the other is shut down. Here we have those settings that we were able to get to on this watch by swiping up. You have these buttons that are for normal mode and silent mode for volume, although firmware updates are changing this to look more like this, where you have round app in a screen and zoom display, which puts your apps in a square in the screen. That's been changed on the original Q3. Has not yet been updated on the X5, but we expect it to. And so it's going to look more like this, and you won't have that mute capability. Instead, you'll have the ability to change the size of the screen. Here you have the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and flip wrist is that one there, which is the same one as there. And then power savings. And then you've got your brightness levels down here across the bottom. So a little bit of a different layout, and in this case, it's part of that lower information that you got to by swiping up. In this case, you get that whole page by pressing and holding the power button. And on both of them, if you hit the one with the little circle with the 1 button, that's your power off mode. So, this is it. This is it. We've been waiting for this. This is the Finow X5 Plus coming to us again from AliExpress. Is the carrier for the Finow actual store online. Finow is selling their own X5 Plus only on 11/11 for that price. It's going to go up, but in the show notes, if you didn't make it to buy it by the 11/11, then check down there for ways that you can get at least a little discount on buying it at the current price that you see. As at this point, this being an engineering prototype, just now being released, this is the only place I know of that you can buy the X5 Plus. It'll probably be in your normal outlets eventually, but for right now, here in November 2016, you want the X5 Plus, check out the link below and pick it up from Finow directly. You have been watching Smartwatch Ticks. Thank you again for viewing our videos, supporting our vendors, and sticking with us. We have quite a few more videos. We're going to do another review on, of course, the Q3 Plus that just came in. So if you're not a subscriber, we appreciate your subscription. Take care. We'll see you soon.